Comic Book Savant, episode 355.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets minds free. And also, I know that I don't...
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, I'm going to revisit a episode I did way back in episode 177, where I did a top 10 list of my favorite short-run comic books. Came up with the idea to revisit that and add some more titles onto that list to give you guys, to kind of give you some, you guys some other options, expand your horizons, maybe give you some good stuff if you tried some of the books back then when I did that episode, to throw some more your way to help you expand your comic book journey and find some more cool stuff that you don't have to invest a lot of time and a lot of money in, because these shorter runs are going to consist right around 50 issues or less in the whole run. So it's only going to be a couple of trades if you collected, or one omnibus, something along those lines. So it's very affordable and will be worth the time you would invest into it to get a complete story. But before I get into all that, as always, I want to give a shout out to my family over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. A great place to go just to find more comic book content. You know, it's sometimes it's hard to find a place that you can gather and just is a good jumping off point for you to find more on a particular topic you want. We all banded together, 11, 12 years ago, going on about 12 years ago now, and banded together. All the comic book podcasters that kind of started out around the same time together came around and formed this network and invited more people in over time to be just the one stop that comic book fans could go find content. So if you haven't been there yet, take a moment to stop by comicspodcast.com. If you like this show and you want to find more comic book related podcasts, definitely stop by there. It is literally hundreds of different shows listed based upon publisher, character, team, you name it. It's broken down many of different ways. It's expanded in so many different ways as well, far as you can find, a single person podcast like myself. You can find a round table discussion podcast, video podcast. There's so many different options out there. So I implore you to just take a moment, check it out. I think you will find something you'll like on there. And if you do find something you like, take a moment to reach out to the creator and let them know, hey, I found your show on the Comics Podcast Network, yada, yada. Let them know how you found them and just give them some feedback, because it always helps, because it's many creators at different levels. Some are just starting out, some have been around as long as I have, 10, 11 years, some even longer, or somewhere in between. So any little motivation or feedback they get can go a long way into keeping a person motivated to do that when they know someone out there on the other side listening. So if you have a moment, definitely do that. And last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor for this in every episode, which is nstocktrades.com. It's one of the best places you can go online when it comes to finding collected editions, omnibus, Marvel Masterworks, Absolute Editions, you name it. If it's bound in a hardcover or in a bound trade paperback, you probably can find it 95% of the time on nstocktrades.com. They're a great resource. They have discounts ranging from 32 to 42 to 45 to even 50% off with their deals of the week. They update every week on their homepage of the site at nstocktrades.com, and they'll have a selection of comics that are discounted 50% off. And, you can't beat the savings. Christmas time is coming up. I got between now and then, I would have put it out earlier if I wasn't running behind, that they do a special. If you buy $50 or more, if you are a U.S. customer, you get free shipping within the U.S. if you're a non-U.S. customer, you still get all the great savings, but you don't get the free shipping. But they do have some of the most competitive international shipping rates around. Like I was trying to say before, I normally do like a Christmas shopping list. I might do it just as a YouTube video because I can do that quicker. Since I produce this show weekly, I can pop out a video in between time and put that out, where I probably will try to do another shopping list video. I know I did one last year. I don't do them every year. But there's so many different options for comic fans, and since I'm giving recommendations, it's all coming to me as I'm doing the episode. Since I'm giving good recommendations, that you being a fan, you might can pass this along to people that if you hear something on this list that you might want to have for Christmas. Like I said, I will try to get something out for a shopping list. I've gotten feedback in the past that they're always kind of helpful. But again, my schedule's been so screwed up with all the stuff that I had going on that I normally would have put it out in October, leading in plenty of time between November and December. But it's still some time in there. So I might do it as an audio episode. I might do it as a video episode. I'll try to figure it out, and I'll keep you guys updated by next week when and where that's going to be coming out, so you can have a 2017 Christmas shopping guide. But with all that out of the way, let's jump into this list. Again, I always think it's cool. For me, sometimes it's so much out there to read. It's a lot of good shorter run stories that are complete stories that are just phenomenal. Some fly under the radar. Some are more known than others. So I thought I would do another list. And to give you guys, like I said, it's a smaller investment, but big payoff is how I kind of look at it. Because sometimes I like to be able to sit down, over a week and read 20, 30, 40, issues of a comic and get a good story that leaves me fulfilled. And then, I can move on to the next thing. Sometimes it's a good palate cleanser between the long, ongoing and event-driven mainstream stuff. And some of these comics are mainstream comics, but, they're they let them stay in their little pocket so they can tell a big story without tying into so much outside extraneous storylines that will muddle or not keep them focused, so they can tell a complete story. First I have on this list is Hawkeye. It's a Marvel Comics. It's written by Matt Fraction. Artwork is done by David Aja. Colorist is Matt Hollingsworth. Lettering is done by Chris Eliopoulos. Sorry, Chris, and I've met Chris before, and I still sometimes get tongue twisted on that. This is only 22 issues. Matt Fraction and David Aja did work with Ed Brubaker on the fantastic The Immortal Iron Fist years before. This is a follow-up that Matt Fraction and Aja did, minus Brubaker, that is extremely good. They have an omnibus, so you can get this all in one shot. You can, buy the individual issues, like if you find them somewhere digitally cheap on sale. You can buy the trades, but this is like, if you've read The Immortal Iron Fist and you've seen Aja and Fraction work together, you would want the omnibus of this. You'll get it all in one shot. The beautiful artwork and just a great story. It's just a great story that is kind of Hawkeye separate from all his superhero stuff in his own. This is like what Hawkeye does in his downtime. It's a really good story. It covers not just Hawkeye as far as Clint Barton, but also I'm blanking on her name, but the new female Hawkeye as well. Kate Bishop, excuse me. So it covers both Kate as well as Clint. It's just a really good self-contained story that you can knock out, and I think you will thoroughly enjoy. I could not recommend this enough. And I'll try to have links to everything. If you go to the website comicbooksavant.com, I'll have Amazon links or Comixology links, what have you, so you can find, if you want to pick this stuff up, I'll have links so you can easily pick it up to help you get on your way to try to track this stuff down. Some might be harder to find than others, but you'll have options. Like I said, if you can't find the omnibus, you should be able to find the trade paperbacks, and find it one way or another, or digitally, depending what your preference of platform is. Next is another good story. Also by Marvel is Darth Vader. This is the series ran 25 issues. It was written by Kieran Gillian, artwork done by Salvador LaRocca, colorist as Edgar L. Delgado, and lettering is done by Joe Caramagna. I don't know why I can't talk today. I keep getting tongue-tied. It ran 25 issues. They have an omnibus for this as well. And like for these short collections, you know, you can have multiple trades, but if you can get these omnibuses, especially through somewhere like InStockTrades.com, where you can get a discount and get it all in one shot. You know, normally some of these omnibus run like $75 to $100. With 50% off, 45% off, you can get like 2 of these smaller omnibuses for the price of what you would normally pay retail for one. So that's always a great deal, and they look beautiful on your shelf. This will give you all 25 issues, and also in the omnibus, they had a crossover with the main Star Wars title that's done by Jason Aaron's that was Vader Down. They also have those issues included as well. So you really get the whole Vader story, including the issues from the other books that were a part of the Vader Down event crossover between the Star Wars books, between Star Wars and Darth Vader, which is cool. Next is also another Marvel title, which is The Punisher. And this is, I've talked about this on video, if I'm not mistaken. I did a video on this Punisher run by Nathan Edmondson, artwork done by Mitch Gerards, lettering done by Corey Pettit. This was a 20-issue series done just a few years ago. You know, I was kind of apprehensive against it at first, the first few issues in. I read the series to completion. I'm a huge Rucka fan, and I felt like I wanted Rucka to write more. I really enjoyed his run. But when I got a chance to get into Edmondson's run and where he went with it, it's a slight spiritual successor to Rucka's run, more so than what I initially thought. And it ended up playing out really, really well, and it was a really good story to it. And had some nice twists and turns along the way as well. And he actually picked up on some plot threads that were left from the Rucka Punisher series and the Punisher. He wrapped up his run with Punisher Warzone, and actually picked up on some of Rucka's plot threads from there as well, which I thought was really cool. They don't have an omnibus for this. This didn't sell extremely well, but you can get the series through just 3 trades. Punisher Volume 1, Black and White, Punisher Volume 2, Border Crossing, and Punisher Volume 3, Last Days. So you can get these 3 trades relatively inexpensive. It's definitely worth a pick up and read. To piggyback off of that 20-issue series, at the same time he was writing Punisher, he was doing a Black Widow series. This one was also Edmondson and Phil, but the artist on this one was Phil Noto. They did a 20-issue series on Black Widow that ran consecutive, and is actually some crossover, which ties back into the Punisher Warzone storyline that I was telling you about as well, which is because it was really cool. This is also collected in 3 trades that you can get. It's Black Widow Volume 1, Finely Woven Thread, Black Widow Volume 2, Tightly Tangled Web, and Black Widow Volume 3, Last Days. Really good series. Again, both are very much quality. They didn't really get on the radar like they should, but they were really good short stories. You can't get these in a nice, I try to find it in the most condensed way to have it presented. They haven't collected it outside of the 3 trades. Hopefully they go back and maybe do, because Edmondson also at the same time, he did a few other books. He did Red Wolf as well, and they were all this kind of secret agent sleeper kind of agent vibe, and hopefully they maybe if it's not an omnibus, I think they could probably do an omnibus and put, since they're only like 20 issues, and I can't remember, I think Red Wolf only went 12 issues, and like do a Edmondson espionage type omnibus or bundle or just one trade that has all these three series, because he wrote them all around the same time and they all got canceled around the same time for Marvel. But I have Red Wolf through Comixology Unlimited, and I haven't had it's in my queue, but I haven't had a chance to read it. But I know these two are good because I actually own the individual issues digitally for both of these series. So I definitely can highly recommend them both because they're really good stuff. And both have stunning artwork with Mitch Gerard on Punisher and Phil Noto on Black Widow. Next, I want to talk about one of the... Well, it's not even from my childhood. Battle Chasers was like in my early 20s. I love this series. It's Joe Madureira. He was a huge artist from Marvel. He broke away from comics altogether. This was his creator-owned. When he broke away from Marvel, they tried to do an Image like 2.0, and it was called Cliffhanger Comics. He was doing this, and Joe Mads, as they fictionally called him, was his timing. It was just hella delayed when he was trying to put this book out. It only went like 9 issues, but the artwork is always from, if you've ever seen Joe Madureira's work on X-Men in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, phenomenal young artist. He broke away and went into video games and co-founded a studio. He did like what's the video game series? They made 2 games, Dark Riders. I want to say he was the creative lead and did all the character design sketches that they, put in for the main character. He kickstarted and then just recently released a Battle Chasers role-playing game on all consoles. I think it's on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, with these characters that have gotten really good reviews. I think IGN, which is one of the bigger sites out there, gave it like a 9.4. It's more of an old school like Final Fantasy throwback role-playing game, but really got high marks. So this franchise, even though it was very short-lived, like I said, it was 10 issues total, issue 0 through issue 9. You can get this in Battle Chasers Collected Edition. It's one collected bundle where you can get all 10 issues. Joe was he's the main artist, of course, and did all the artwork. And he co-wrote this with his friend Jim Munez, I think. Just fun fantasy. This was right before Lord of the Rings kicked off, so it's in that fantasy realm, just amped up with just super phonetic artwork. Joe Mads was known for just beautiful pencils, so it's very exaggerated, cartoony, with influences of anime in his style, but just amped up with some American type action to it. Extremely well received. Just a fun series. So definitely, if you want to check this out, if you like fantasy realms and you're not familiar with Battle Chasers, definitely look it up. This is one to look out for if you just want something fun and fantasy that's off the beaten path from the rest of the stuff we've talked about, which is kind of like your mainstream superhero stuff. It's a nice diversion off the normal beaten path. So definitely check that out. Next, let me talk about The Losers. This is a Vertigo title that's produced by DC Vertigo. It was written by Andy Diggle. Artwork was done by Jock. It ran for 32 issues. So you can get it in 2. They had 2 like collected editions that came out around the time the movie with Idris Elba and Chris Evans was in it. Zoe Saldana was in this movie. That came out, I can't even remember how many years ago. It's been quite a few years ago now. Wasn't a super hit, but it was a cool little movie, and I got into reading the series. They have 2 collected editions where it's broken up in half. It's like the first is Losers Trade Paperback Volume 1. That'll have the first half, 16 issues, 16 issues, and the second trade, Volume 2, will have the next 16 to give you all 32. They never did like an omnibus that I'm aware of. They just did these 2 trade paperback large size editions to give you all the whole series. And like I said, it's only 32 issues, not a big investment, but really good stuff. Next, let me talk about one of my favorite series of all time, the short run, which would be 52, done by DC Comics. This was done about 10 years ago. It was real ambitious. It was a weekly series that came out week to week with four different writers. Or was it 5? I think it was 5. Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Greg Rucka, and Keith Giffen. So it was 5 writers. They put a book out weekly. They had 15 or more different artists worked on the series. They actually did it. It was like the first time it was ever attempted and completed. It was a grand thing. It was a beautiful thing. All the covers were done by J.G. Jones. It was 52 actual issues. They do have an omnibus. Now, this is something that you want to ask family members for Christmas, because this is a massive thing. And I think the omnibus has all the actual issues, all 52 issues, and then J.G. Jones put out this art book of all the covers as well, and cover concepts and stuff, and I think all of it is included in the omnibus. It's massive. I had all the individual trades. I think it was covered in 4 trades, or you can get the omnibus. I would opt for the omnibus. It's a great story to go back and revisit. It was, like I said, it was a huge thing at the time. It resonated. They kind of messed up, and I think they followed it up, and they did Countdown, and they kept doing weekly things, but it never had the talent that 52 initially had on it. And they did different attempts, and they kept doing weekly things, and they did a similar events with like Batman, and they just beat the concept to death. But this was the first, the original, and in my opinion, the best attempt at a weekly, a yearly, a weekly 4-year series was with 52, and it was a nice story. Put Black Adam on the map for me. I don't think we would have a Shazam movie if it wasn't for 52 and the work they did writing Black Adam in that series. I really don't think Shazam would be popular enough to have a movie and have a separate Black Adam movie if it wasn't for 52. So it's definitely, if you are curious about Black Adam and why he's so important, you definitely would want to read 52. Again, I'll have links to all this stuff in the actual show notes on comicbooksavant.com. I'll have all the links and stuff where I said you can try to find these comics so you can hunt them down and enjoy them. Next, I want to talk about The Secret Avengers. This is a Marvel comic. It ran 37 issues. It had multiple writers on the series. We had Ed Brubaker, Nick Spencer, Warren Ellis, Rick Remender. And the crazy thing about the book is that with all the different writers on this 37 issues, you had 4 phenomenal writers, and they all had their take on it, but they were all good. And it was about 10 different artists that worked on the series through the various writers coming on and off. Rick Remender's run, I think out of all the different writers, he had the longest stint on the book. He was the last writer and led into the series finishing off. Ed Brubaker, I think it was Ed Brubaker, and then I think it was him and Nick Spencer beginning to write it. Brubaker peeled off the book, and then Spencer took it over directly for a while. Warren Ellis kind of came in between to kind of fill a gap, and then Rick Remender came and took it through the home stretch. It started off like they were a secret ops, hence the Secret Avengers, Black Ops kind of Avengers squad. I love the concept of it. They went and did dangerous missions, the mission that they didn't want the public to know that the Avengers were going into, trying to be a preventative measure to stopping villains. and kind of like I said, in the shadows. I really love the concept of it. They've had different volumes after this, but I originally liked this concept and how it started out. It's multiple trades for this as well, and I think it's been collected multiple different ways, because I know they had a couple of trades with Rick Remender's run. I think then Warren Ellis's issues might have been collected in a trade or two, so it's really muddled. So like I said, I'll have to track it down. I don't have the because it's muddled and it's broken up a lot of different ways, so I don't have all the specific information now, but I'll hunt it down and have it in the show notes when I post the episode on the site, so you'll have the links to find it if you're interested in it. Next, I want to talk about Daredevil. This is the original Mark Waid and Marcos Martin and Paulo Rivera run. Mark Waid did another run with Chris Sammy. This initial run was 36 issues, and it came back. And again, I don't have all the information because it's muddled, because he had multiple runs with different artists. I'll have the links in the show notes. I'll try to track all that down. I have the specifics. It ran 36 issues. I had the individual issues. I was buying it digitally. Love this initial run. I haven't read the other stuff. I heard all of it is good. I'm going to comment on this first run of 36 issues because I read that, and it was extremely good. Loved his take. I did an episode of my favorite single issues of all time. One of my single favorite issues, if I remember correctly, is issue 8. It was a Christmas issue with Matt helping some kids. Really just powerful issue. Mark Waid, I've always loved Mark Waid as a writer over the years. He just continues. He's done great work over at DC with characters, over at Marvel. He's just a phenomenal writer, and he just always picks the right talent to work with him that can really convey the stories he wants to tell. And this is no exception. Really good series, worth picking up for sure. Last but not least, I want to talk about one of my guilty pleasure series, and I've talked about the series on and off, because it started out, the first volume or the first series was Avengers Arena, and this is the follow-up to Avengers Arena, which plucked characters out of Avengers Academy, Runaways, even X-Men, and Avengers Arena. And this was the follow-up series, and it was also written by Dennis Hopeless that wrote Avengers Arena. He had Kev Walker and Timothy Green, the second work, were the two main artists on the series. This follow-up only ran 10 issues. Really good follow-up. It's an interesting tale about revenge. And I don't want to spoil a whole bunch, but if you haven't read Avengers Arena, I want to say Avengers Arena was like 18 or 19 issues. I recommended Avengers Arena on the last episode I did my top 10 short comics run. So this is a follow-up piece to that. So I feel like you definitely want to read Avengers Arena first and then read Avengers Undercover. It's going to make more sense, and you'll be more invested in the characters and their journey and why they came to where they came to and why certain characters made decisions they made. So it's a small investment of less than 30 issues for 2 series that gives you one whole overarching story, which is great. This one is collected in 2 trades. It did 2 trades: Avengers Undercover Volume 1, Descent, and Avengers Undercover Volume 2, Going Native. So it's definitely worth checking out. But again, it's a companion, so you need to read this in conjunction with Avengers Arena. Those are some recommendations. Again, they're varied. They're shorter. Like I said, there's minimal investment, but I feel like they pay off the investments you do make in the books, and the time investment. You get paid off highly on the back end as being a comics fan and just a lover of comics and enjoying what you've read. And again, it's not a major time investment. These are short little runs that you can read over a weekend or on a vacation. You can read over a short period of time and really enjoy. So I hope this helped you guys out. gave you some things to think about. Christmas holidays is going to be coming up. These are little things that you can pick up on the cheap. And if you're going on vacation and you have some downtime and you want to do some reading, some comics reading, these are just some things you can whiz through really, really fast. So you read some of these that's on the plane. If you're flying, traveling, taking those long flights, you can get them digitally and have them with you, and just really enjoy. And that was the whole thing of it, the convenience that you can take these on the go, read them, and enjoy them. And these are good pieces that you can add to your collection as well, especially when you get something with 52 or Darth Vader, if you get those omnibus collections. But if you go the digital route, you can read all this on the go. But if you want nice show pieces, 52 omnibus, the Darth Vader omnibus, the Hawkeye omnibus are definitely super awesome pieces to have in your collection. If you have a comics room and bookshelf and you want these nice bound editions, that's what those are for sure. So give you a lot of different options, a lot of stuff to think about. You can always find me at comicbooksavant.com, the website. I keep that updated. I keep all sorts of information. I keep links to other podcasters that I've collabed with. If you want to help support the show and sponsor the show, I have links to my Patreon account or Patreon page. I have a PayPal link where you can, if you want to make a donation, you can do that directly. It'll give you links to share to help share the show. So it's not always about financial monetization, and support. It's just keep doing what you guys are doing and spreading the word about the show. So I have links to the iTunes that you can tweet out and share with people. I'm active on Twitter, not as much as I want to be. I've fallen off on Instagram. I got to get back on Instagram because, like I said, I had so much personal stuff going on. So I haven't, I tweet when the new episodes come out, but I haven't been tweeting as much. And my platform of choice is Instagram. I try to, take pictures and stuff of what I'm doing and prepping for the show. And like I said, I've fallen off on that, but I'm trying to get back in the swing of that as well. And I also have the YouTube channel. If you guys haven't checked it out, please do so. It's separate content from what I do here. It's all still comic book related, but things I might not talk about on the episode, or if it's TV shows or comic book video games, comic books and other mediums outside of the comics directly themselves. I try to switch it up and give you different things, but it's still under the umbrella of Comic Book Savant and still all related to the comic book industry. So if you have a moment, check out youtube.com/Comic Book Savant. I'm on Facebook as well. We have a page on Facebook as well as a discussion group as well. So I have the links for all that on the website. So just go to comicbooksavant.com, and you can also send emails to me via that. I have a contact us page right on the website where you can send the emails for feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to get to me, or you can hit me up on social media at Comic Book Savant on Twitter, Instagram. You can find me at Comic Book Savant. That's all I have for you guys this week. I'll see you again next week for another episode of Comic Book Savant. Check the YouTube channel later in the week for a new video episode dropping as well. I see you guys later. You take care and have an awesome week. Bye.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.